And 3, 2, 1. We are live. Welcome to the How to Market and Monetize Your Book Expertise in 2024 Masterclass and Workshop. I'm Chris Trammell. Thank you so much for joining me today, this January 22nd, to help you kick off your book, your expertise, that knowledge that you have, that you've been waiting to get out to the world. I am so excited that you're here. I'm humbled that I get to contribute to your journey, to take those ideas, to take that passion, to create a platform, watch you productize it, and then live it out to the world. But before we jump in, before we take off, one of the things that I always model and ask for my students to do is to do a few things. Now, one, you got to let the bots go live. What do I mean by that? Right now, Facebook is notifying everybody who's following myself, people who've registered for this event, that the event is now live. So give people a few minutes to hop into your event. Talk about the weather, which we have snowstorms over in the Northeast and the Midwest right now. It's raining here in Long Beach, California. It is okay to settle in. Now, one of the things that you're going to see that I do as we create this workshop over the next 5 days, and I'm going to go over that with you in just a few moments, is I model what it is that I want you to do, right? I model what it is that I coach you on being able to accomplish for yourself. Why do I do that? Because we are observational learners. It's just one of the fundamentals of being human, is that we learn by observation, we learn by listening, and we really, I'd like to say, I'm not perfect, but we develop mastery and practice and repetition. So everything that I'm doing here is something that you can do, absolutely. And inside of you being able to do this, the better you get at it, the more your engagement goes up, the more that your conversations and consult calls start to really create this magical experience for what's possible for people. And those consult calls start to convert into client calls, right? And that's really what business is marketing, having great conversations, describing what your brand promise and what your brand experience is, having people say yes to your brand, and then moving them into your program, into your process, into your product, whatever that is. That is the nature of business, right? Creating a meaningful relationship with people and then helping them have an experience or solve something in their lives that they're currently working through that would make a difference to them if they had a solution that shortened the amount of time that they spent and decreased the amount of debt that they had to take on to be able to get to where they wanted to go. So inside of doing that, first thing I'm going to invite you to do is exactly what I'm going to do. Right now, I'm streaming into Chris Trammell Coaching. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to double check that this is actually streaming through just fine. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. And I'm going to double check. So yes, got it. Actually streaming through. I'm going to turn that off right now. I've got a heart going right there. Thank you, Catherine Dove. And now the next thing I'm going to ask you to do is there's 3 little dots on that top right-hand corner, whatever you're going to start. I'm going to copy link. Okay, now this part becomes, I would say, very important because some platforms like StreamYard allow you to stream to all your different platforms at once. Today I'm using Zoom. I wanted to try and go back to Zoom and manage my rooms because when I was doing StreamYard, I couldn't interact with people. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy my link. I'm going to go back into my other groups, one of my other groups being the Author Launchpad. And inside of the Author Launchpad, I'm going to go ahead and paste that into that group right now. So let's go ahead and go there to the Author Launchpad. It says where it says to write something, I'm simply going to copy, paste, and post it. And now I'm streaming into both Chris Trammell Coaching, Zoom, and the Author Launchpad. And that is the community that I'm really building in 2024. So you'll notice that I'm starting to separate Chris Trammell Coaching from the Author Launchpad. Why am I sharing this with you? Because if you are a nonfiction author, an expert, one of the things that I'm going to really have you be working on is who you are as a personal brand, distinct and different from the process that is inside your book. One more time, who you are as a personal brand is distinct and different than the process that's inside of your book. Now, when our guest comes on today, and let me back up. So here we go. Let's talk about a couple things. I'm going to go ahead and share for a moment. There you go. There's one. You got to learn to record. So here we go. Luckily, you're able to pull down your own Facebook video, but now I've got the recording going. So I'm going to share the first thing with you that I want you to know about today. What I'm sharing with you is built on this exact roadmap that I create for all of my clients. Part of the Author Launchpad is that it is a done for you component, high coaching, high touch program. The biggest thing where I see people get stuck is in the area of, one, having the tech. Authors are not techies. They might have a sense of working with MailChimp. They might get good with using Constant Contact, and they might be able to develop some lead magnets. But most of the time, being able to create a high-performing funnel that allows you to start to draw people into consult calls, that allows you to create your own workshops that then moves people into a funnel is not something that is normally done. The next thing, your expert revenue blueprint and process. I'm going to make sure that you have your own revenue roadmap and your own process by the time we're done in our program. If you do not have a process, you are going to continue to speak off the cuff. You're going to continue to, I don't want to say ramble, but you're going to ramble. You're going to actually do more pontification than performance. Profits are a function of process and performance. Process and performance leads to profits, not pontification. Pontification never got people profits. They always wanted to hear, okay, great, that's what you're able to do. Now show me how. Take me from the abstract and the ahas, and that's one of the things I'm going to show you next in the workbook. Take me from those ahas that we're talking about and show me how to implement those into my life. Show me how to take that information. I was like, whoa, I needed to hear that. And how do I integrate that into my life? There's 3 phases. And this is a thing that I really want you to know because you're entirely capable of being able to do this. You are great at information. You're so great at information that you wrote a book. And I'm going to show you a couple books that are part of my influences in just a moment, give you a little bit of background about me. But you're so great with your information that you wrote a book. Bravo. You have legacy now. You have something that will live on beyond you. That is extraordinary, right? And how many people say, I'm going to write something and they never write it? You wrote something. Congratulations. Like that in itself is achievement and accomplishment. And I say it doesn't stop there. It actually starts there. Publishing your book is not the finish line. It is the starting line for true impact and income. And that's what we're going to talk about over these next 5 days. That's really what the Author Launchpad is all about. How to take that expert message that you have, how to take that knowledge, that expertise, and create $1 million message out of it. How to create a process and a program, a course, workshops, master classes inside of your book exists everything you need to know about monetizing and marketing your book. It's all there. What you need is the structure, what you need is the system, and what you need is a blueprint or a process or a framework, whatever you're going to call it. That is what's needed. And that's why I just showed you that first step right now, which is the Author Launchpad Revenue Roadmap. It is imperative going into 2024 that if you have knowledge, you have expertise, you have a book, that you have your starting point. And your starting point must be some process, some foundation, some framework, blueprint, roadmap that people can follow along with you and locate themselves inside of your customer journey. So that's the first part. Now let's talk about these next few days, okay? Let's go ahead and share that. These next few days, I have done my best, and I think I did a heck of a job to go ahead and put together some of the finest authors and experts inside of the publishing realm, the membership course realm, media training. Like, let's go through some of the guests that we're going to have over these next 5 days. Well, first, I'm your host. So again, I'll talk about myself in just a moment. It's more exciting for me to talk about how to market and monetize your nonfiction book in 2024. Why is it a masterclass? Because we are giving you the mastery, the information of mastery, and you have a workbook, and I'm going to show you that next. That workbook is where I need you to take notes. I need you to be able to take the ahas, the inspirations, and turn them actually into the actions that you're going to take to go from inspiration to implementation, to go from aha into action. That is what Performance Coach Chris gets all fired up about, because I know if left to just being a good idea, it will slowly flit away and you'll be back to the same old, same old. And the same old is exactly what has you be where you're at. Maybe you're turning wheels. Maybe you're not having that experience you want. That is why I brought these different experts on to talk to you about what that opportunity is. The first author that we're going to have on today, both publisher and executive ghostwriter, is Tim Jacobs. And Tim Jacobs is going to be coming in and sharing about JWC Publishing. Tomorrow we have Lisa Carroll. She is a Kajabi business and membership expert. She designs outstanding communities within the Kajabi platform. That is what I use, as the Kajabi platform. That's where we build all of our funnels and we build all of our email campaigns. We build it for our clients inside of the Kajabi platform. On Wednesday, we have Rafi Andonian. He is going to be tons of fun to have on. He's one of the most energetic, extroverted, outgoing individuals. So much so, he's now the national celebrity historian. And it's a lot of fun. And you're going to learn some really great things about media and some great things about our relationship too. Thursday, you recognize this guy right here. That's Ted Lasso. Well, this is Marty Stockman and Nick Coniglio. And on Thursday, we are going to be talking about a leadership book called Lead It Like Lasso, and what their journey was like when they took on another person's life and wrote from that context, wrote from that content, stood in that person's shoes and identity and created story from that. Really extraordinary opportunity. Friday, one of my mentors, and that's Dr. Melvin Allen. Dr. Melvin Allen is also an author. He's a relationship alchemist. He coaches couples around the world. He's also a Myers-Briggs expert and depth psychologist. He's going to be with us on Friday talking about mindset, mechanics, and that opportunity to monetize yourself over time and to keep evolving. Saturday, we got a special guest. I am so thrilled to introduce to you on Saturday, Dr. Jody Baer. Dr. Jody Baer is a force to be reckoned with. She is going to be talking about her new book and publisher platform, Healthopedia, and really an extraordinary opportunity to come in and to listen to a mom of Olympians, a breast cancer survivor, a woman who should be retired and has the energy now to come back and say, no, I am not done yet. I am here to make a difference. And really extraordinary that she's doing that. And now the last thing I want to share with you is, if you do not have your author launchpad workbook, will you please post it in the chat or let me know so I could get this to you. I have made sure that you have all the information that you're going to need, both about me, about the program, the opportunities of the program, why the author launchpad matters to you, what you're going to get out of the author launchpad, and most importantly, a place for you to take the notes, like I said, on the information that's going to be coming to you today. Really want to make sure that you have that all set up. And there's a page here. So as Tim comes on today and talks about his expertise, I want to make sure that you are capturing what Tim has to say. So please take out your workbook, take out a piece of paper. If you don't have the workbook, make sure you capture it. We will go ahead and share it online and post it into all of the threads. Make sure it's emailed to you so that you are ready with your workbook. And that's what it's going to look like this week. Like you showing up to the masterclass and workshop, how to market and monetize your book in 2024, right? Sitting down, turning everything else off, saying, this is about me. This is about my book. This is about what I said I was committed to. This is about me growing my income. It's about me having that difference maker impact. It's about me holding a place of influence on the lives of others. If you're willing to give me that hour, 1 hour per day, plus maybe 30 to 45 minutes each evening for some forwarding actions for you to take on, I promise you, I will catapult you forward in 1 week. And that type of catapulting forward doesn't happen. I sat on I didn't just sit on, I felt like I wasted time on one of these info sessions on LinkedIn last time. And it was good. The information was good, but it was nothing but at the surface, things you could get on YouTube, things you could get with the Google search. And I kept waiting, right? Like I just kept being, I don't want to say baited, but I felt like a little baited at times. I'm not holding anything back. If you show up, you put your questions into the chat, you reach out to me, you reach out to anybody on my team that you see in the recordings, you post your message here as I'm watching and I'm going through and I'm looking at it. If I see a message come through right now, I'm going to answer it. I want you to be able to get exactly what it is that you're looking for so that 2024 looks so dramatically different than how 2023 did for your already existing book. Now, maybe you're about to publish your book. I don't know exactly where you're at. I've designed my program largely for those persons that are about to publish and published and on. That's why I'm bringing other experts on that are going to talk about the writing journey. They're going to talk about the writing process. I'm more of a developmental editor that goes from what's the big theme of your book, what is the messages of your book, what's the meat, potatoes, the core content of your book that I'm not only going to make sure is in your book, but it's also in your digital ecosystem. It's also in your workshops. It's in your master classes. It's in your signature group coaching program. And then, because I know everybody says, hey, go ahead and make an online course from your book. And here's the thing, don't do that right away. You haven't done the research and the work of it. I say do master classes, do workshops off your book. And that's what's going to have you be able to move forward. So I've got Tim Jacobs in the waiting room right now. I'm going to send him a message. that says, I see you, and will bring you in 2 minutes. Actually, I'll bring them in. Yeah, just about 2 minutes, because I'm going to talk about, not talk about myself, but I want to share about myself and who am I and who am I for you, right? So first things first, I'm Chris Trammell. I am the creator, developer, and head coach of the Author Launchpad, where I help authors, speakers, and experts to be able to monetize their expertise, to be able to market their genius, and to be able to generate that impact and income that's going to transform their lives and transform other people's lives. That's my commitment. That's my promise to you, is inside of a 90-day program called the Author Launchpad, we take that genius, we take that core message, that core process. It's got to be a process. Remember, the days of pontification and talking about ahas and feel-goods, they're done. We are about process. Now, I'm not saying be robotic, but I'm saying be intentional. Okay, I don't want you to be robotic. And Tim and I are going to talk about, what that looks like to, how we're going to beat the bots. But intentionality is what people are looking for. There's just so much information now. So I'm going to go ahead and spotlight me, and then I will go ahead and bring on Tim right now. Let's go ahead and admit Tim into the room. So as Tim is getting ready to come on, I see he is joining us. And once I have Tim ready to go, Tim, I see you. I'm going to bring you on in just a moment. Outstanding that you're here. So a last piece about the intentionality I was talking about and why I've created what I've created and why we're going to have these conversations with all these different experts this week. Some of my influences. Well, let's go ahead and talk about who's here this week and doing what. So again, I'm Chris Trammell. I'm the creator of the Author Launchpad. I also have my book that is going to be coming out 2024, Living Your Life's Work. This is an advanced reader copy where I'm using all of the same exact strategies that I teach you both this week and inside of the Author Launchpad. I'm going to use them to launch my book, right? So there are some strategies that we're going to be talking about, and that's why I brought on a publisher like Tim Jacobs to talk about it. On Thursday, we have the authors of Lead It Like Lasso. They're going to come on and talk about their journey as authors, who they published with, what are they planning to do, what inspired them to create this book. On Saturday, I have Dr. Jody Bear coming on, who wrote 21 Days to Your Best You. She used to coach and NCAA athletes about health and wellness because her own kids were Olympian swimmers. Some of my other clients, John Bates, part of the Itty Bitty Book Authors. Maybe you're part of an anthology and you're like, well, I wrote this chapter. Now what should I do with it, right? Because I know that you got that Amazon bestseller stamp. Now what? Now what? So Tim and I are going to be talking about what's next after you say publish a book. Another fantastic author I get to work with, Lori Bruton, with the Lori Factor. She has an endorsement at the beginning of her book by Les Brown himself. They do a really outstanding live stream together. That's why I go live. Part of my process to train all of my clients, authors, on going live. And then another great client of mine, Jeff Cohen, who creates the teams of the future inside of his Count Honorable process. Those are just some of the individuals I've got to work with. And the people that influenced me to do all this, Joseph Campbell, Pathways to Bliss. Everybody's working on being the hero in their journey. There's something we all want to accomplish in our lives. There's something that we are out to do that makes a difference for most of us, for many of us, not all of us. And that's okay. You don't got to be type A like me. You do you and do it great and be a difference maker wherever you are, right? Part of doing you, though, is having some high performance habits. One of my coaches, Brendan Burchard, he's extraordinary. If you don't follow Brendan Burchard, I absolutely invite you to follow Brendan Burchard because he's got some great components. And I have brought some of his components through my lens into my program because, like I said, I'm creator, head coach, and developer. That's why I have those three components inside of my program. Inspiration. I love my Marianne Williamson. Many of you might see her right now running for president, but long before she was running for president, many of you know she was just one of like the spiritual mindset leaders of peace, calm, be well within, because if you're well within, you could do great out in the world. And those are the lessons that I still get to use from her. And in terms of marketing, one of the things that I believe is if you haven't read the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, you definitely want to use this. It reorganized my cells in 2023 when I read this book. And I continue to go back to it and I say, what can I implement? What can I implement? Okay. And then if the last person I want to shout out to is Kelly Roach. Many of you might see her biz advisory program out there. She's got her own launch going on right now. And this is what it looks like. It's going to be Tim and myself right now, and whoever else is following us on the different channels that we've got out there. Kelly went live today and she had 170 people on, probably about 300 registered, right? Everybody starts with 1-to-1s, 1-to-5, 1-to-10, 1-to-15. Then you got 3 screens, then you got 5 screens, then you got, but it doesn't happen like that overnight. There are no overnight viral sensations. So I want you to just take it easy on yourself, okay? Trust this process. Trust the lessons you're going to hear from Tim. I'm bringing him on right now because he's been patiently waiting, and I hope that I'm giving him just enough to fire his engine up for when he comes on. So 3, 2, 1, let's go, Ed, and add Tim Jacobs to this conversation. I'm going to spotlight us both, Tim, to make sure. Boom, there you are. Spotlight you and add spotlight. So we are both there. Tim Jacobs, it is a pleasure to see you again, Tim. I want to hear all about traveling up and down the East Coast, but thank you so much for coming back to the Author Launchpad, and thanks for coming back during this 5-day launch where you get to be part of like what's going to help nonfiction authors do something different, be something greater than what 2023 was. So first, I got excited, Tim. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Tim Jacobs of JWC Publishing. Let me get my notes out right here. Tim is the founder and editor-in-chief of JWC Publishing. It is a book writing agency for professionals, executives. He has ghostwriters on his teams, editors, book designers, all dedicated to broadcasting their message through books. He works with authors, publishers, and other business leaders to create influential books with a purpose. So if you are one of those executives and you're like, I think I want to launch a book in 2024, this is the guy. This is the guy you want to talk to. With that being said, Tim Jacobs, welcome. How are you today?
Hey, I want to meet this guy. Thanks for having me back. It's always good to connect with you. I know we're always messaging each other quite often, so it's good to jump on a call now and then. And thank you for asking me to be a part of this.
Yeah, absolutely, Tim. And you just pointed to something that I think is in the background. I want to make it in the front and obvious. As you said, thank you for staying in communication with you. And so many people, I find they don't follow up. They don't stay in communication. And the experience of competition seems to stomp that collaboration is what has us grow, right? So talk to me, Tim. How was 2023 for you in the world of launching some of your authors? And what were some of the lessons that when you look back at 2023, you're like, look, these are the things that I want people to know going into 2024. What would you say some of those are?
Yeah, it's different each year because every author is different. Every book is different. Messages might be the same, but they're told so differently from different people. And, I would say one of the biggest lessons that I kind of maybe learned is, you always need to be open to change. And no matter how well something is on paper, how well you think you're going to execute it, always be open for, wow, it's going to take me down to a road I never even, a road that wasn't on the map. And what kind of paradise or treasures is that going to lead to? Because just by connecting with certain people, you end up going different places. And a good friend of mine and someone that I worked with on a couple of his books, he always says, you're just one relationship away from changing your life. And to me, that's kind of what LinkedIn is about. It's about making those connections to hopefully change your life or change someone else's life.
Wow. So Tim, I don't know if you saw the workbook, but you've got your own guest page right there. There's Tim Jacobs. And so people are going to capture your ahas today, and they're going to then turn them into action items. So what I heard there is, one, be flexible to change. I also heard to collaborate. What else was another thing that you saw in 2023 before I start to ask you some of the other mechanics, the blocking and tackling of producing a book? What else did you notice?
One thing I've noticed, at least I would say in my circles, some of the masterminds that I'm in and networking groups I'm in, is really kind of like how things have changed, over the course of maybe the past 10 years. And that's, you and I, let's say as an example, we might do a lot of the same things for our author clients.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we're not competition. We're here to help each other. I'm here to bring you in for where I might have a weakness, and then you're tapping my shoulder saying, "Hey Tim, you excel at this. Can you come into this project and help me with my client?" Where before, like I say, maybe even 10 years ago, it would have been like, no, don't talk to Chris, talk to me.
Yeah.
And I've really seen that evolve, and I really feel coming out of the pandemic, let's say, I really felt that has changed, that people that are doing similar business, and they're after, quote unquote, that same client, they're learning to collaborate together and do it together versus competition and trying to either outprice each other, or I'm the more professional of it, or I have the experience. I think that's kind of gone to the wayside, where people are just, you know what, it's probably better if we just connect and do it together versus trying to get the client to choose between us.
Wow, Tim. I love how you said that. I captured it this way. The pandemic lowered barriers in business, and it created communities for business.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely true, because one of the things that I think I had to learn in this process is being being overwhelming, in the sense of over delivering. It's that old adage of under promise, over deliver, right? But now it's give it away, because there's so much information out in the web sphere, the internet, all that could be found. People are really looking for, can I trust you? And do you know your stuff, so that we could lock arms and produce what it is that I want to produce in my life?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So you did a rebranding and a new brand launch. Isn't that correct?
I did a slight relaunch. I used to do JWC Publishing, What's Your Story? And then when myself and a couple others started kind of relooking at things, it's like, you know what? Yes, we're telling people's story, but our main client tends to be that business owner. So we kind of switched it to JWC Publishing, business books for business owners. And one of the aspects we brought in was a couple coaches who can help that particular business owner / client learn how to use their book, and realize that ROI is not from how many copies of your book you sell. It's from getting new clients. It's from getting on the stages. It's for even, getting to be able to do programs like this. It's about furthering their brand with having that extra resource that they can use for their clients. And to me, that was a big, huge thing, because in the past, let's say we've done a business book for somebody, and we've done the ghostwriting, the editing, the proofreading, designed it. Here's your cover, your ISBN. Here are your files. Go to print, upload to Amazon. You're good to go. And they don't know what to do. You know, it's just I just felt that was the missing piece, and I wanted to bring that in so that I'm not leaving the client like, yeah, I spent X amount of money and I got my book. Actually, I got 500 over here. I just don't know what to do with them.
Hey, Tim, I want to thank you and all the other publishers that did that, because you created a niche for me.
Yeah.
Because actually, go ahead, please.
I was going to say, because I just sent you an email about 20 minutes ago that I have a referral for you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's how that works. So
absolutely. And we'll talk about that. But, and not that I say it diminishingly, but that's what I saw as someone who, you know, was a curriculum writer for the Los Angeles Zoo for 15 years. I wrote wildlife education programs. I had to do both the script of the delivery of a program, while at the same time the training of the animals to match the script, as we talked about conservation and the unique qualities and behaviors of these animals. I learned how to take the content and start to deliver it like a teacher so that it was engaging and entertaining. And then, you know, I found this young lady, 2018, 2019, and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. That's the missing piece for nonfiction authors, is to take that knowledge, to create a really well-designed program and start to deliver these hour workshops or hour master classes around it. So you're not just relying on USA bestseller, New York Times bestseller, Amazon seller. It's like, give me back my power so I could go talk about my book. I could say my process in it. And thank you, Tim. You got me fired up, and I appreciate it. And I thank you for your collaboration as well. Tim, you're an author as well. Now, are you an author? Let me describe it this way. Are you the plumber with leaky pipes, meaning you do all these things for your other authors, but you don't do a lot for your book? Or do you still find that your books are part of your passion, your self-expression, and you still try and keep your books alive? Where are you at in your own personal author journey?
Well, with my nonfiction books, I write both fiction and nonfiction for myself. And it's funny because this is going to tie into what I said earlier about collaborations. Is I am going through maybe the last or second to last read through and proofread of my book, which is basically asking business owners, why don't you have a book? If you want one, this is how you write it. And another publisher who does exactly what I do, he's going to write the foreword for me and review it. Where, like I said, 10 years ago, it would have been like, I'm not reading your book and give you a foreword. Why would I have my name attached to yours and help you? But, you know, but that's where I am with my nonfiction. Is I'm always trying to work on that. I always have some ideas going. I probably spend more time now concentrating on my LinkedIn posts and kind of getting them scheduled, Tim, and lined up.
Great post you've been putting out there. Absolutely.
Thank you. And then with my fiction, I enjoy horror fiction. I just love making characters, putting them in odd situations, scary situations, and just kind of having them tell me how they're going to get through it, how they're going to get out of that situation. And basically, I just write it down. I honestly, I don't do a lot of promotion. I don't do a lot of, you know, videos for it. I'm not really putting it out there. But then again, I'm not going after that. I'm not trying to get certain awards. I'm not trying to enter contests. I just enjoy the fact that I have a story and I want to write and get it out. And awesome. I think in my retirement years, I think that's what I might do as my hobby, or my pastime might be like, now let me really concentrate on all my stuff versus, you know, helping anywhere from a dozen to 20 people every year with their stuff. Yeah, really great. I think I'll be on that same journey too. I have found completing my book to be a little bit of an undertaking, because I don't block out the time for my own book, but I block out the time for my clients and everybody else's stuff. So yeah, exactly.
Tim, are you part of the Association of American Horror Writers, Horror Authors? Did you know there's that association?
I knew there was I think it's called is it the Horror Writers Association or
Yeah, it's
something,
like,
HWA?
yeah, yeah.
I yeah, I definitely know that that's there. I'm in their Facebook group, and I catch up on some of the posts and what's going on. And I know they have different levels, and
Uh-huh.
their different levels are what you've done in the realm of horror writing is how you join in, and you're at certain levels. But I'm not a member of that group. But when I really go to concentrate on pushing my horror writing out there, I'm definitely going to be joining some organizations and getting involved in things.
That's awesome. And I only asked that. They had a great booth here at the Festival of Books at the USC campus when I was there, and I was meeting other writers, and I made sure I got out and met different publishers. And it was part of my doing research. So, authors, if you're listening, here's one thing that I say: don't get behind the booth. You get stuck behind the booth. Be the person who could be mobile. Or if you're going to get a booth, put a friend in the booth and you go get mobile. I mean, Tim, how many times did you maybe have a booth somewhere and you found yourself low traffic or maybe stuck behind the table? Has that ever happened to you?
Absolutely. And it's funny you mentioned that, because one thing I learned was what I recommend to people is share a table with somebody, because you're splitting the cost right there. Make sure that the other author is not your competition. Like, I was doing like horror fiction, and I had like a nonfiction book on the Civil War, and that's what I was kind of promoting at my table. And I shared it with a friend of mine, and she wrote like romantic comedy. So
Uh,
we're not vying for that same client, but
yeah.
by us always going to these events together, sharing a table, she knew my work and I knew hers. So when she went to grab lunch, or she went to go use the restroom, and someone asked about her book, I knew how to answer it, and she knew how to do that for me. So I was able to be like, hey, I'm going to go walk around the festival and drop my card in a few places. She could sell my books for me, and then when she left the table, I was able to sell her stuff for her. And we had that rapport and that friendship with each other. And again, it wasn't like two people sitting there were both trying to sell a Civil War book and we want the same client, or the same customer, that is.
Yeah. Really great, Tim. Thank you for sharing that because, again, those nonfiction authors out there wondering, should I go to a book festival? Should I go get a booth? These are the types of things you got to call a Tim Jacobs for and say, look, I should I go here? He's strategist that way. Give him a call, get on a consult call with them and say, I'm thinking about doing these things. And Tim, just FYI, I'm really working on reaching out to as many nonfiction book conferences that I could speak at this year to get the Author Launchpad out there. So just keep it in mind as they pass your desk, they pass through your email inbox. Feel free to forward them to me because I'm
Yeah.
committed that more nonfiction authors are getting their work out to the world. Because let's dive into the second topic I love your input on is how does a publisher like you support your clients to beat the bots? Or maybe how do we not be afraid of AI? Do we embrace HAL? Is it war games coming up soon and it's going to be Skynet? How are you looking at AI, and what's some of the tips and suggestions and strategies you're using there?
Yeah, I mean, I've dabbled in AI with my own writing, not any of my past clients or current clients' writings. But that's a tough one, because it's still relatively very, very new. We don't know yet probably everything that's going to come out of this. But I just mainly what I do is I tell my clients, if you want to dabble in it, do it. But let me just share with you a couple things. Like, you might say, hey, you might put in some keywords and you want to write something about being a diabetic.
Yeah.
That's fine. But keep in mind, you could even say, I want sources. AI makes up the sources. They don't exist. So if
Wow.
someone goes to Life magazine for this volume, this page, da da da, it doesn't exist. And people don't realize that, and they think, hey, I got all my footnotes, I got everything, and it just doesn't exist. And it's fine to, I find it's great to use for inspiration. It's great to use to kind of maybe even, I wouldn't say edit, but pare down. Hey, I have 2,000 words on this. Can you make it 1,000? And
Mm,
it can kind of take out what it feels isn't kind of, gripping material within that article or within that 2,000 words. So, I
right.
mean, there's definitely some great uses for it, but I really think it's still a little bit of ways from, here's my outline, write my novel for me or write my book for me. And I try to tell people too, if this is AI and out here's the internet where there's blogs, there's social media posts, there's white papers, there's books, there's magazines. Well, you over here put in your info. Well, this thing goes up and it grabs all this different stuff, sorts it, and spits it out to you. Well, guess what's
Yeah.
missing? All your stuff, your experience, your theory, your lessons. It's even if it is out here, there's no guarantee AI grabbed it. So you've written a book, but you haven't written your book. And that's where you need that human element to kind of come in and be a part of your project. And that could be the ghostwriter, or if you've written it yourself, that could be your editor.
Oh, outstanding, Tim. It really, and that's where I was hoping you would take us to, is that, you know, the bots are not going to beat the human element. And it's really why I'm so passionate about delivering the Author Launchpad, is the evolution for authors. It's like anybody soon with enough patience to sit and keep putting a chapter theme into Chat GPT and letting it kick out, and then just quickly throwing it between two covers that you got someone to put on Fiverr and say, I got a book. All right, now you're competing with this landscape that's going to start to be diluted with these AI assisted books or completely AI books. You could go to YouTube right now and see how people are saying, I created this book with AI and da 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 da. They're not telling you how much money they threw behind the marketing. They're not telling you how much money that they're doing that way. They're just hooking you to buy their AI program. So I really appreciate you describing that AI is a tool for us for repurposing. It is a tool for us when we get a little verbose to bring things back down and clean it up. But it by no means takes the place of our experience, our expertise, and our ability to engage and deliver that information.
Yep. And another thing they don't tell you too is Amazon has started, and it's probably gonna morph into something else. But from what I've read too, they're starting to, when you upload your book, especially like your ebook or your printed book, POD book, they're running it through softwares, and if it's X% AI written, they'll kick it back to you.
Wow.
Is
I
what's going
didn't
to
know
start
that.
happening, because how could, like, if Chris writes a book and he uses a ton of AI and you're just copy pasting and you're creating this, you can't copyright that. It's not yours. It was
Right.
all that stuff out in the internet that the AI went out and grabbed. That's
Yeah.
not yours.
Right. Yeah. People, I think right now believe that the AI is completely self-generative, creating novel material off the top of its head, where it really is a search engine, creating these new recipes, amalgamations, and putting that information together newly and then kicking it back out. It doesn't quite
Yep.
think the way we think inside of the creative realm, but they're getting close, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate you sharing that. Hey Tim, I just want
It,
everybody to see. Go ahead, go.
oh, I was going to say, because what I did as an experiment, I put in AI saying, like, uh, an old mansion, it's run down, dilapidated. Describe it as H.P. Lovecraft would. And the
Wow.
thing was, they were using H.P. Lovecraft character names. They were using things like Innsmouth, which is the Shadow over Innsmouth, which was his fictional weird, strange place. If you haven't read that, that's something everyone should read if you're into horror, but it's very creepy. But it was way too much all Lovecraft in there. It wasn't his style. It was
It was love.
Lovecraft.
Yeah.
And you can't put that out there because, again, those are his characters, those are his settings, those are, even the way that he wrote was how they put it together, and it was too much Lovecraft to do that.
Mm. All right, I'm going to share now, Tim, because you're hot right now. So I want people to be able to, whether they're watching this live, they're watching this in replay. So you've got to hear some of the takeaways inside the session so far that Tim's described. One, be flexible to change. Two, be collaborating with others. I know you writers, you spent a lot of time writing in your silos. It's time to open that up and get in some communities like Tim talked about. Tim, you talked about a beautiful one here. And I'm going to say one of these key takeaways that actually people have put into action is your messaging on point? Now, you saw, what was your brand tagline before?
What's your story?
What's your story? And now what is your new tagline?
Business books for business owners.
Okay, so perfect. How many years have you been in business?
Full time since 2012. Before that, quite a few years just as like a side hustle.
Okay, perfect. So ladies and gentlemen, look at that. Tim just described, he's been in business 11 years doing this, and he's still refining and iterating the process. You gotta trust putting your work out there and iterating and refining. When that little voice says you gotta be perfect and have it all together, you just gotta strangle it and then say, good job, you're trying to keep me safe, and put it away. And put it away. Because Tim, how's that been so far now? How's your confidence gone up? How's your trust of your process and your expertise gone up with that new tagline?
I'd say it has gone way up, because now it helps us to be more focused on what we're doing and what we want to do, and it also helps other people understand exactly what we do. Versus, what's your story? Well, that's kind of like everyone asks, what's your story? But when you say business books for business owners, that tells you exactly what we do. We do business books for business owners.
So good. And I got to admit, I thought I was being really smart. I'm like, hey, the Author Launchpad, it sounds great. Do you know how many people come to me and say, can you help me write my book? And I'm like, oh gosh, that's not the part of authoring I work on. I work on the launch after your book is written. So even I have to look at, how do I make sure that my messaging is clear inside of, who I help, what I do, and what time frame, so that they could do what out in the world. So thank you for that, Tim. And thank you for showing the process of business that allows us to remain profitable, doing what we love. Yeah. Tim, you also asked me about a client that was looking for the possibility of creating a workshop or a webinar. So I thought we could dive into that for just a moment or two. In the handout here, if you're one of Tim's clients, I put in your 60-minute workshop outline. This is exactly the same workshop outline that I use for my clients. And reach out to Tim, he'll have the workbook. Reach out to me, I'll have the workbook. If you registered, you'll be getting the workbook. I'm going to make this a little bit larger so we could see it. It's not difficult once you get the hang of delivering your own workshop. It's an introduction. Let people come on, then talk about who you are and your credibility. Tim, do you do any workshops like this?
No, I do not, but it's funny you mentioned that, because extremely close to maybe doing LinkedIn audio events, like one a week, where I might pick, like, say, like a Thursday night, and just bring in a different guest, just bring in current and past clients, editors, literary agents, coaches, other publishers, and just kind of just kind of like you and I are doing now, just kind of have a conversation, but share like a wealth of knowledge.
Yes, very good. Very good, Tim. And one of the things I was saying before you hopped on is the days of pontification and information are done. People want to hear process, and they want to hear implementation. And if we're not providing that as service providers, we are going to find ourselves adrift. And so when you said, hey, Chris, can you help me create webinar or workshop for somebody? Yes, you know, a webinar is just a seminar on the web. So let's be clear what a webinar is. And a seminar was a place where you delivered your expertise, your information, and then you ask people to register into your programs at the end of that. That's what the true old seminars were about. So here's what I would say. Now, why do I have phase 1, 2, and 3 is because I designed my clients' programs to be the power of 3 so that they talk about, okay, in phase 1, like for me, what are we going to package? In phase 2, what are we going to go ahead and start to market about your book, your expertise? In phase 3, how are we now going to start to monetize it? How am I going to train you to have one-to-one sales, that listen and learn phase? And then moving you into creating your own workshops and then training people on how to be able to close a sale in a one-to-many situation. And then what is your program outcomes? Invite people to register. And then if they're still not sure, it's book a call. And then you thank them and you complete the evening. You do this enough times, then you record it. And then you can make it evergreen. But you don't try and create an evergreen webinar without doing at least 5 to 7 initial workshops and masterclasses.
Absolutely. So, it's funny. I'm reading this book called, I think it's called The Meditation. It's 100 tips or 100 daily tips for writers. And actually the tip was today just about, you know, practicing before you get good. And they talk about musicians. They play for a couple hours, then they go on stage. Athletes train for a couple hours, then they go on the field. They don't just walk on the field and start throwing the ball around. And no. It's the same thing for writers. You might have this great idea for a novel, but guess what? You might write that 5 times before you write the actual novel that you've been thinking and dreaming of.
Yeah. Yeah, really great, Tim. Really great. And it is practice. You're masterful at your craft because you practiced it. I'm masterful at what I do because I've practiced it. I've been track and field coach. I've been Ironman. I've been a curriculum writer, course developer. I just brought it all together into a program that coaches people on how to get their expertise out to the world. And then if they come to me and like, Chris, can you help me write a book? Unless there's someone I really, 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 really love and want to work with, I'm like, you know, you go to Tim. Tim's your guy. And not that I don't love you, but there's just certain people, because I don't have that type of time doing what I do, building and doing done-for-you services. But Tim does, ladies and gentlemen. If you're looking to create that executive book, Tim Jacobs is your guy. Absolutely. Tim, so I got excited. And I love working these workshops with you because we've been on for about 10 minutes and it's already, you know, top of the hour. So that happens to us. We bend time. We touched on the webinar. So I hope your guest, whoever that is, can take a look at that, have a conversation with you, and we could follow up with that. Last piece, Tim, I do have a couple people that are that came to me and they're like, will you help me write my book? I took one on. What are your Tim Jacobs top 3 or 5 for getting a book to its handed over to Tim Jacobs publisher readiness? Like, this is what you tell them to do. Okay, you know, you got to do X, Y, Z, elemental P, and then let's talk.
Yeah, if they're writing it themselves, and we're taking ghostwriting out of the equation, so they're writing their own manuscript, I would say number 1 is to make sure you have a clear, focused message. Don't be all over the place. It's got to be really niche. Number 2, which I see is a big mistake, especially with first-time business authors, don't try to cram 30 years of experience into 200 pages. No one needs to know, you know, what the Jimmy Carter administration passed that affected your business back in the, you know, mid 70s. It doesn't, right. It really doesn't matter. Always keep in mind, you know, who your reader is, who that client is that you're kind of wanting to engage with, because the main reason they're getting your book is because they're in a situation or they have a challenge and they want your advice in order to get out of that situation or
Mm.
overcome that challenge. And I have a very good friend who's a ghostwriter, and he says, you know, no one goes to the store to buy a book on dieting to read it. They want something they could apply, the nutrition, the exercise, the, you know, whatever, the getting the right mindset for whatever that diet book is. So you need to think about that with your book. You know, what are you delivering? How is it going to be delivered? And, you know, you also need to include why you? Why are you the one to offer people this advice and kind of guide people and let them in on your process? Because they need to make that connection with you. And you only know so many people, so you got to think of, how am I coming across to people who don't know me? But I would say those are at least four things: is have a clear message, you know, definitely know who your audience is, what they're suffering. Don't try to cram 30 years of history into your book, because the people don't necessarily need that. And then also think beyond the people you know who are your audience, that, you know, they're going to have no idea who you are. Somehow the book, they either found it online, maybe someone gifted it to them, maybe they attended you were speaking at a conference and they just grabbed your book on the way out.
So good, Tim. I'm so fortunate to have connected with you, Tim. It is the top of our hour. And Tim, let me just ask you this. This just came through right now. What is your goal for 2024? And what in your business are you going to all in on?
Wow. Actually, one of our goals is for myself and my wife, who's also an author and writer and runs a children's book award program for illustrators, authors, and publishers. But we're actually, the next few clients we bring on, we decided that we want to be more involved, and we will probably be the ghostwriter. So you'll get like this dual team of me helping the client with the outline, doing the interviews, doing the transcribing, putting together like that rough draft. And then my wife's going to go through it and kind of do the polishing part. And then we could have it ready for the client to approve to move on to the editor that we bring on. But we just kind of want to be, you know, we're running the business and we're kind of doing it backward, because now we kind of want to be more working in the business versus working on the business.
Yeah. Wow. How fun at the same time that you get to have this class. And that's going to be more at the children's book level, or that's what your wife does, but it's for all the authors come in. You're combining forces.
Yeah, it's for all the authors coming in. We don't get too many children book authors that need ghostwriting, or even if they need editing, usually that's kind of like a quick kind of thing, because, you know, picture books are 800 words, or maybe 1,000 words. It's not, you know, anything of great length. But my wife is just very good at here's what I have, and she's very good at just really tightening it down and making it strong, whether it's nonfiction or fiction or children's book or anything. So, you know, just for me to kind of get that rough thing out there, she can definitely refine it, and we can, you know, get it ready to kind of go into the next stages of the process. But we just kind of, like I said, we're in a mode that this year we kind of want to be more in the business doing stuff versus just being, you know, working on the business. We want to jump in it for a little while and kind of get our hands dirty, I guess.
That's fantastic. And again, authors, as you hear that, you're like, I wrote a book. Well, come to Tim, come to myself, and let's create a strategy around your entrepreneur business, around being, your book is a business. It's not just this business card. It is actually a vehicle to transform your life when you use it correctly.
Absolutely.
Man, Tim Jacobs, keep driving safely up and down the coast. Yeah. If you ever make it past the Mississippi, please hey, Tim, I'm actually going to be in Florida. I don't know if you're going to be in Florida, in Boca Raton, 21st to the 25th. You going to be anywhere around there?
I'm in Jacksonville. I'm probably a couple hours from there. So let's get together for sure.
Oh, I'll send you the information. It's the author author and publisher coming on Saturday. She has an event going on in Boca Raton, and I get to write the programs for those authors. So I look forward to being, yeah. Tim Jacobs, everybody, of JWC Publishing. If you are an executive writer, if you're a corporate escapee, if you're looking to take those 20, 30 years of knowledge and expertise and have somebody be able to scaffold it, put it all together so that you can see your work exist out in the world, please go to Tim Jacobs. Once you've got that in place, Tim's probably going to call this guy who says, Chris, he's ready for his talk and he's ready to start delivering this as programs and consulting. That's where I step in. Tim Jacobs, it is a pleasure to have you on. I can't thank you enough for being here with me again today. And for everyone, tomorrow, day 2 of the Author Launchpad, I have Lisa Carroll coming on, who's going to coach you on how to create a membership. Your membership from the knowledge in your book. Yes, that's possible. This is all about life beyond book sales. That is what we're creating here. Tim described it, and tomorrow we've got more of it coming for you. So 12 p.m. Pacific time, right here, same Zoom link inside of Chris Trammell Coaching, the Author Launchpad, and I'm going to find a way to get it on LinkedIn as well. So Tim, it's a pleasure to have you. You have yourself a blessed, wonderful, sunny day, and we'll be touching base this next week or so.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. Absolutely.
Right on, Tim. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye, Tim.